Thompson lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Will. Item 2 on the agenda is public participation. We're glad to see we have some members here this morning, and before you leave, if you would be kind enough to sign on that sheet so we have a record of your attendance, if you would take a moment to identify yourself, starting with the lady on the back.
Hey, I'm Rick Stanton with the League of Women Voters.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm Scotty K. Blackwell. I'm the Spartanburg County Communications Manager.
Thank you, ma'am. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Sir?
I'm Frank Grimes, I'm the poll clerk.
Frank?
Greg Leonard, here's the video, actually we're for the attendance.
Good. Well, thank you very much for being here this morning. Does the league have anything they'd like to bring before the board this morning?
I'm just amazed at how busy y'all are gonna be this year.
That's a little bit of an
Yeah, we
understatement,
are.
I believe.
Yeah.
Coming up very, very quickly, and I do thank you for getting information out to the TV media. I saw Amy last night, and with a good picture of John and on there, and you did well on that. But it's
Thank
good
you.
the public's getting that information out, and we're glad to have that communication with the local media. So thank you for what you do to help this office, both of you. I'd like to take a moment to review the minutes of the November 22nd regular meeting and certification, which are attached to each of you here. Note if you have any comments in there. I do note, John, that the Ms. Schilling is not shown as being absent from the meeting. She did not participate on the phone line. We'll
Okay.
Make that amendment.
We will add that line.
And then we have our quorum with 4 of us, counting Mr. Beltram on the phone, so we can proceed with today's agenda. Any other suggestions to the meetings? Otherwise, I'd like to have a motion to approve them.
I move to approve.
Motion to approve with the amendment.
Second.
Seconded. We approve. Thank you. We'd now like to reconvene as the Board of Canvassers to conduct a provisional ballot review and certify the results of the January 2nd Packlet Town Council District 6 special election and Reedville Mayor special election. We'll start by taking the oath for that. If you would, we, the undersigned members of the Board of Voter Registration and Elections of Spartanburg County, do hereby meet and organize as the Spartanburg County Board of Canvassers to certify the results of the January 2nd, 2024 Packlet Town Council District 6 special election and Reedville Mayor special election. We hereby appoint Ms. Cindy Church as Secretary of the Board of Canvassers. And if you all will sign this.
For you to sign my name, okay?
I will do that. I have Mr. Beltram's approval to sign his name, and I'll put my initials by that. And while we do that, let me now swear in the board. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I'm duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States, so help me God. Mr. Beltram, all right, you'll sign that, please, and then Mr. Thompson, I'll ask you to issue that to me, please.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I am duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected or appointed, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States.
I will. Swap that black pen for a blue pen. Rick, and I'm gonna sign your name to this as well.
Yes, please, thank you.
Mr. Belcher, if you will, Mr. Bobkin, if you will take us through the unofficial results, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. So, as you can see, we had a grand total of 67 ballots cast in these two municipal special elections. And in Reedville, for the mayor of Reedville, it was 32 ballots cast for Joshua Simpson to 8 write-in ballots for a total of 40. And then in Packlet Town Council District 6, Keith Beef Lee, 2 ballots cast, write-ins, 25 ballots cast. And attached to the back of your unofficial results is a write-in names report for the write-in names in Packlet Town Council District 6. And it appears that they are all variations of Starmika or Starmika S, Starmika Sims Wofford. We had 25 write-in votes cast for Starmika Wofford.
And who was the candidate on the ballot?
The candidate on the ballot was Keith Beef Lee with 2 votes.
Okay. So we notify Ms. Walford that, have you talked with her?
I spoke to Ms. Wofford yesterday. She is a registered voter in the district, has been in the district for more than 30 days, and does want to take the seat.
All right. Good, you notified her. What about Uwakava ballots?
There were no Uwakava ballots.
Any provisional ballots?
There were 2 provisional ballots. We'll remove them from the ballot bin now. Both of these provisional ballots were voters who were not in, one of these was not in city council district for 30 days. The address was changed in office on election day. The old address was in District 4. The other is a registered voter in city council District 4.
All right.
So neither of these having been registered in the district for 30 days would count.
All right. We in agreement with that, board?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bach, if you'll take us through the election checklist.
Yes, sir. All the emergency ballots were accounted for and scanned. There were none. Absentee ballots, both of them were scanned. There were no unscannables. The thumb drives were read into electionware and verified against the results tapes. Report 5 was reviewed to ensure that we had all of the absentee ballots. We had both of them. There were no absentee ballots in attention envelopes. No absentee ballots challenged. The early voting totals, there were no early votes cast in this election. Therefore, everything checked out and matched in zeros. The election day precincts, we have all eligible election day ballots accounted for, scanned, and included in the totals. All in-office fail-safe ballots, there were none, have been accounted for. There were no unscannable ballots to duplicate. The reconciliation worksheets were reviewed and accounting of all ballots performed. All election day thumb drives were read into electionware and checked against the results tapes. The in-office fail-safe thumb drive with 0 votes was loaded into electionware. And the electionware and results tapes were compared to the turnout counts in Connect and matched. Provisional ballots, all ballot boxes, blue bins, and scanner compartments were opened and inspected. We have the 2 provisional ballots that were accounted for on the reconciliation sheets. The reconciliation sheets were reviewed. The provisional ballots match the provisional ballots we have. Serial numbers and quantities of fail-safe provisional and emergency provisional ballots were verified. And all provisional ballots are located and deposited in a ballot box and secured. We prepared them for the office staff. They've been sorted, organized, and presented to you. We did a hand count audit of the Packlet race. There were no exceptions. It was clean. The results of the hand count audit matched the results on the election system reported. There were no discrepancies, and they will be returned to the SEC. Board of Canvassers has reviewed the election night totals for election day and office fail-safe, early absentee, and emergency. There were no you will call ballots. You have heard and accepted or heard the provisional ballots. There were none to accept, none to duplicate. We have set aside the rejected ballots. All of these steps are done in accordance with the E-Prac, and we will now change the summary report to official and compare it to the election night summary. And I will present this to you. And Carmella will go change the election results to official.
All right, I think we're ready to do that. Thank you, John.
You are welcome. There is a copy of the official results report, including another write-in names report to go with the official
Okay.
results.
Well, Rick, John has just handed us the official results, so we'll compare it to the unofficial. We showed that we had registered voters 1,387 unofficially. That's the same officially. We showed 67 ballots cast. That's the same. That's a 4.83% turnout. On the race for mayor of Reedville, we showed 32 votes for Joshua Simpson, 8 write-in totals. That reflects the 40 votes on the unofficial result. There's no change there. We had 25 write-in votes on Town Council District 6 for Packlet versus 2 votes for Keith Lee. Those totals have not changed. So the official results match the unofficial results. Therefore, I think we can certify that all the proper procedures for canvassing votes in these 2 elections have been followed, and we have received written confirmation of the same from the County Voter Registration and Elections Office staff. And upon this confirmation, any further review of our own, we certify the following results of this election are correct in all respects. Y'all would sign that. Rick, would you like me to sign this for you?
Yeah, please do that.
All right, sir, I will.
You probably can soil any better than I can.
Well, I don't know about that.
Mine's just a little scribble.
Signing Mr. Beltram's name.
Aren't we supposed to initial or sign here? Oh. Aren't we supposed to initial and sign?
Yeah, we'll initial those. Thank you. Cindy reminded me that we are to sign the official results. Thank you.
Is that the right page?
Official.
Okay. Is that the title?
think that concludes our business as the Board of Canvassers for the results. Therefore, we can adjourn as the Board of Canvassers and reconvene for the board meeting. Brings us to item 6 on our agenda for old business. Any other business before the board? Hearing none, we'll proceed to new business. Item I, presidential preference primaries election day site visits.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Each of you in your stack of documents that I provided, you have a list of the sites that you visited in November. And I would just like if y'all would to review the sites that you visited in November and just email me and let me know if you want to add any additional sites or change any of those sites, or if you want to stick with the polling places that you visited in November again
Yeah.
for the presidential primaries.
Yeah, well, since these are Saturday dates, we may be able to visit a little bit more than that. The Democratic side date is again what?
February 3rd.
So, but, there's a lot that don't get visited. That's why I like to change up sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
All I did is I took what you visited in
Yeah.
November
Which
and
is
then
fine,
as a
but,
baseline.
There's others around in that same area where I live that.
Yes.
Well, even on out to Greer, that I didn't have time. I mean, I drove 100 miles just because these are all out in the country.
Right,
So I may change up a little.
perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always good to visit the smaller sites.
Yeah, and a lot of these are.
I
small.
found that was always very effective to do that, just to let our poll managers know that we had their back and supported them, and it was always welcome there
Right.
to see what's going on. And the GOP is the 24th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, each of us, Rick, will review the list of sites you want to visit on those 2 dates, and then we'll get those to you, John.
Okay. Excellent.
Now, you've got I noticed, Amy, or the special report on TV showed that they had the 2 ballots already done.
The sample ballots.
Yeah, the sample ballots.
Voters can find their sample ballots now on scvotes.gov.
All right, have we got those posted around the office anywhere?
We do not have those posted around the office yet. The state will be providing candidate posters
Okay.
with a list of candidate names that we can print and post.
Just
And
have,
hopefully we will have those very soon because
what's the Democratic ballot look like?
there are 3 candidates. It is Joe Biden, Marianne Williamson, and I don't remember offhand who the 3rd candidate is.
Okay.
And Dean Phillips, is that?
That sounds correct.
All right, thank you, Rick. I couldn't remember. All right. It's gonna be a busy, next few weeks with registrations and getting people involved. And how are we doing on poll managers?
Right now, we have about a little over 300, about 306 or 309 scheduled for training classes.
And does that count for early voting people? Is the early voting all set, the workers?
Early voting workers are set.
Okay.
And we have all of those that we need based on what Walt had told me yesterday. We have all the early voting workers that we need for the 3 early voting centers. And they have a training class scheduled. They've all scheduled
Now,
their training class.
we're not early voting for the 2 primaries, are we?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes,
Early
early.
voting.
Yeah.
When does that actually start, John, early voting, the Democrat primary first?
Early voting for the Democratic presidential primary starts January 22nd. It ends February 2nd at 6 p.m., 13 hours before polls open.
The Republican is broken up.
The Republican gave us Friday.
Washington's birthday or something. Because it doesn't start on Monday.
Right, we have President's Day off from early voting since it's a state holiday. And there is no early voting on the Friday, February 23rd for the Republican presidential primary. That gave us a day off between early voting and election day.
All right. Any other comments on the 2 primaries coming up? And registration for the June primaries ends March 30th, opens March the 15th.
I believe it's the 16th, 16th to 30th.
Okay.
And we will be open on that Saturday, the
That's
filing
the
opens.
filing candidates you mean, right?
Yeah, filing candidates for the state offices and county offices and the others that we have scheduled for them, so.
Yes, partisan filing is March 16th through 30th. We'll be open half a day on that Saturday that filing opens.
Okay. All right. Takes us to the director's report.
Yes. Actually, looking at I'd like to step back just a second before the director's report to the early voting centers for the June primaries. Because we have to use the same sites in June that we use in November. I have contacted Todd Stevens of the libraries about expanding to a third library early voting center and putting one over at the Middle Tiger Library. I'm awaiting his feedback, and hopefully, he's been very agreeable about using libraries. Hopefully, the Middle Tiger's available for an early voting center. We have to set those dates by mid-March, or not those dates, those sites by mid-March for the June primary and November general. But I think that Middle Tiger would be another good spot in a heavily populated population
Is that
center.
I live out there, is that in Duncan?
It's Lyman, Duncan, I'm not sure which town it's
Okay.
actually in and its address,
It
but
might be
it's
Lyman.
right there, not far from the Lyman Town Hall.
Okay, it's probably that one.
It's also not far from Beach Springs and
Yeah,
Burns.
that's probably a good location.
I think it
All
will
those
be,
people.
I think it will be. Hmm?
It's right between Lyman and Burns.
Okay.
And I'm hoping, anticipating that we may have 50,000 people vote early in November, I'm hoping that having this location plus 3 libraries spreads that out enough for it to be feasible. Because of the extended hours, we should be able to put 1,200 people through each site per day, 1,200 to 1,500 people through each site per day, pretty easily. So I think 4 sites should.
Have we talked with the memorial staff, auditorium staff about using that facility again for November? But I think we have to do that a year in advance.
I have not, because the notes that I saw said we had to contact them more than a year in
Yeah.
advance and cost of the site.
Yeah,
So I have not, and probably before I would do that, I would consider, I'm thinking about if we do not have to open this, and I've got to get clarification from the state as to whether or not we have to open in this office for
Yeah.
early voting. If we do not have to open in this office for early voting, I'm going to talk to John Woodsby at Parks about the possibility of using Cleveland Park's lower level.
okay.
Because it's a bigger room than this, and it would keep the traffic out of this office for just the general voters. That way, the traffic in the front office here would be people that needed to register and change address, the normal traffic that we see from voters, not necessarily 1,000 people a day coming through that entrance and taking up the parking for voters who need to come in and register or change their address, or folks coming to pay taxes, things like that. But that's dependent on not having to open in this building.
Okay. I think we'd like to see, we need state's blessing on that.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments, John?
Not on the early voting centers, which does bring us to the director's report. The temporarily combined polling locations for the presidential preference primaries, now that it's 2024, and I think voters are not focused on the holidays anymore, but are starting to turn their attention to the upcoming presidential primaries, we're starting to push the temporary locations so that it gets out in the media. It's on the website now, the list of them. I've sent them to Scotty Kay so that she can help distribute that to the media and through social media to help voters become aware. Also, when voters go to scvotes.gov to find their polling place, if they're in one of those precincts that's temporarily combined, they will see the temporary polling location for the PPP.
Okay.
So the information is out there and we're starting to push it now that we're getting closer. The SEC did a press release, I believe it was last week. No, it was right before Christmas. It was right before Christmas. They did a press release, and I have given each of you these nice voter go-to guides that the state has put online. And then they also have an absentee voter go-to guide. And they have put these online. We have the PDFs, so I'm going to print some copies of these to have in the office as well as to post the PDFs on our website as well. Because I think these are very concise guides with pertinent information and deadlines. I think this was a very well thought out effort on the state's part, and they have a nice presidential preference primary landing page on scvotes.gov as well with this information. Moving on to Cowpens Town Council special election on February 6th. We have 4 candidates who filed. They elect by majority, so most likely we're going to get to have ourselves a runoff then on February 20th. Put 2 elections in between the 2 presidential preference primaries. Scare Conference, March 4th to 9th. Working on the registration. I finally heard back from Ms. Schilling, so now I'm waiting to get the itinerary, the agenda, so that we find out what classes are offered. I've got some staff that may like to attend if they can take classes that will help them get certified.
All right.
So as soon as we get that, I'm gonna get the registrations in. Has everyone booked their room that's going? Okay.
Yeah, I have.
I booked mine, and I'll get the registrations in before the price goes up for sure.
All right.
And like I say, we've got a few additional staff. Myself and Walt are going, and Penny and Caleb, our new voting system tech, said he'd like to go. Alice may like to go if there will be classes that benefit her certification. If there are no classes that help her get certified, then she's less inclined, which I completely understand.
How many hours does the staff have to do to get certified?
It's 8 classes, 4 core, 2 election electives, and 2 general electives. And she's got her 2 general electives. That's why the classes they offer are going to matter in terms of whether or not it helps her, because
They're generally not core classes.
right, that was my expectation, is that they wouldn't be core. So it probably will not benefit her, and probably will not be something that she attends. But again, hopefully Scare will get that agenda out soon. Training classes for the first quarter have not been released yet by the state. So I'm sorry, especially Rick, I know you want to finish getting certified. As soon as we have the first quarter training classes released, I will send those out to you and look at what you need and help get that scheduled.
Is there any class that Rick can take online that you haven't taken, Rick, that would qualify as part of that?
I don't know, I checked with John a couple of weeks ago to just verify what I can do, can't do to get this knocked out as quickly as possible. Of course, I took the big 2-day class last month, so I got that out of the way. That's the big one.
Yeah. Okay.
They could probably do it in 3 hours, but it's 2 days.
And with the state doing so many virtual classes now themselves, instead of the regular online classes that they used to do, that you could pick from and just complete it and send them the certificate, most of the virtual classes now that they offer, you have to sign in and be on camera, and they're part of their regular
Right.
training calendar. And right now, nothing has been released for 2024. Soon as we have that, I'll send it out to everyone. Ethics filings for 2024 due March 30th. It's that time again.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good reminder, folks, that to do that, because if we don't do it on time, then we're liable to be fined by the ethics.
Right, and I'll remind you again at the next meeting.
Yeah.
I have, moving to something a little more fun, I have the county's gift cards for those of you who get a stipend. Well, Ms. Johnson's not here, Cindy Schilling is not here, so I'll hang on to these for the next time. And then the last thing on my report for y'all is, and this is not for public distribution or public discussion, but this is for official use and for your information. This is the Department of Homeland Security's physical security assessment that y'all can look over, and then we need to, we can consider putting it on the agenda to discuss
Okay.
any of those items at a future time, but we
And that's
do.
scheduled for March, correct?
The next meeting, the physical security assessment was done in March of 2023.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and we finally got those not long before the November election.
All right.
So we have made some headway on some of the items in there. I will go so far as saying that in a public setting, some of the items that are in there. we've made
This
some
is
headway
just
on it.
our
This-
office?
yes.
Not the whole building? This is just us?
Right, it
Okay.
considers just our office.
Okay.
But I wanted to provide those now that we're in a spot that we can begin looking at that as we approach the new budget year. Provide those to you for your information. And with that, the next meeting is going to be February 8th, the regular board meeting, and certification of the February 3rd Democratic Presidential Preference Primary and the February 6th Cowpens Town Council Special Elections.
All right. What else, sir?
That is all I have.
All right. Anything else from you folks? Rick, anything for you?
I'm very good, thank you very much.
Frank?
Henry, I've got one question. During the early voting in 2020 for the presidential election, because of coronavirus, this and the other, it was, criteria for early voting was pretty much wide open. You just came to the auditorium and you got to vote. Prior to that, there were some criteria to meet for early voting. You needed to say you were,
Well, we didn't have early voting in 2020, Frank. It was all absentee.
absentee, okay.
Yeah, and those were 17 or 18 reasons to qualify for it. We put, if I remember correctly, we did 63,000 absentee votes for that, or in that period. Most of it was at the auditorium,
Yeah.
which worked out real well.
So thank you for that clarification. So what's gonna come up now is truly gonna be early voting, not absentee voting.
That's correct.
Are there any criteria for early voting, or you just turn it?
All you have to be a registered voter and
Okay,
show
that's
up
good. I
anywhere to
just,
vote.
if there was a change, I just thought that would be something we'd want to
Yeah.
communicate out. That's fine. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
That was absentee voting.
We had one gentleman join us after we'd started. Sir, if you'd identify yourself, we're glad to have you this morning.
Sure, my name is Patrick Kay, I'm the town administrator for Backlund, and I just wanted to come and make sure see about the verifications. We have a council meeting this evening, and didn't want to swear someone in who has not been completely verified by this board.
All right, and you were here to hear the results of the election.
Darnica
Yeah,
has been certified.
that's correct.
Okay, so we will go ahead and swear her into council meeting
All
prior
right,
to.
and there was some question earlier about making sure we have accurate city council maps of Packard, so you might be able to, over the next few months, work with us to have more accurate maps so that, because Frank said that he had a lot of people come in that didn't know they were in the district, so we need to do some work on that with communication of our voter base.
We currently have maps on our website for each of the districts to let people know if they're in there. If they are unsure of where to find those, they can contact town hall, and we can instruct them on our
But
website.
could I ask if you would make sure that the county mapping department is in sync with you
Gotcha.
on that, please?
Sure, will do.
Good. Well, welcome this morning.
Thank you.
All right, there being no further business, I think we can adjourn this meeting today. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick, for joining us.